Hello and welcome back to the cesspool, and welcome back to the 25 Days of Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. I do hope that is a good one. And we're back on the floor here, probably, I hate to say it, for the final time of our stretch of 25 videos in 25 days. It has been absolutely incredible to see all the support on these stupid videos of me, talking literally, on my knees on the floor. But I love that, people have discovered those videos and, really enjoyed them. Not everyone agrees with my opinions, and that's fine. I've made a couple mistakes. I didn't research everything perfectly. I've made a couple of, oopsies, but it's okay, and, I completely admit that none of these videos have been perfect. And any, opinions that I have are mine alone. And you can have a different opinion, and that's fine. But we're here at the last video, and I will continue to do these videos in the new year. Not every day, God no, but maybe once a week, maybe bi-weekly. I think at the least I'd like to do bi-weekly, but once a week I think would be pretty decent, because this isn't, this isn't a huge process for me. I really do just kind of talk my thoughts out about different gaming, concepts and topics. And today's, I think, is probably one of the most personal. I mean, it is the most personal, actually. And for a lot of people, everybody has their different gaming, stories and how they got into certain games. And I'm no different. And the first game that I'm going to talk about is a game in a long, extremely popular franchise that everybody knows. And it's a game that when it first came out, I think a lot of people, not everybody, this was still a very, liked game, but not everybody loved it. I think it had some mixed reception, but as time went on, I think it was appreciated a lot more than when it originally released. And that game in this long-running series is Pokemon Black and White, specifically in my case, Pokemon White version. This is my original copy that I got back in 2011. When the game came out. I went with my dad to GameStop. I had birthday money, and I was like, you know what? I'm buying this because my friend told me that it was so good, and I had played Pokemon Emerald. This was not my first Pokemon game, but it was the first one I bought new in the box. I remember taking off, the wrapping, opening it up, and I don't have the cartridge in here or the manual, but this was my original copy, and it was mine. And I remember I got the game, I immediately opened it up, and I had my DS with me. I popped the game, and I started, and then I said, no, I want to stop, because I was going over to my friend's house right after I got the game. And I told them about it, so I went over there, and we started playing the game together. And I remember I picked Snivy as my starter, and which, was entirely because, my friend had also picked Snivy, and I was like, oh, well, if he picked it, then it must be good. I have to pick, I was really kind of copying him with this one. And I had another friend who had Black, and, and we would always trade together. We would, explore the Entralink. That was such a cool thing. Obviously, we did battles. And I remember, beating all the different gyms. I remember looking for all the different legendaries, like doing research. How do you get Kyurem? How do you get all of the, the weather-based legendary, all that stuff. I remember searching for Thundurus in the grass, and I think it was like Route 15 or something. Like, I remember so much of this so vividly as a kid. This is one of my greatest, childhood games. This is what really got me into Pokemon. I played Emerald first, and I could talk a lot about Emerald, in another volume of this, because I could, make a lot of these. In another volume of this, I would absolutely talk about Emerald and my history with Emerald. But as far as this being my first, this game got me into Pokemon, truly. And, this is probably my favorite personal Pokemon game. There's a Heart Gold in there somewhere. There's an Omega Ruby, and of course there's an Emerald. But I think this honestly takes the cake just out of personal nostalgia for it. And, I keep this original copy on the shelf with all my other games. I've had no reason to buy another copy of this because I love this game so much. And this copy gives me so much, satisfaction. I've played through this game countless times. And every time that I play it, there's something else that I didn't remember as a kid that was so amazing that I overlooked. The music, obviously the artwork. This was the first time we saw animated Pokemon sprites, in battle. This was incredible to me as someone who, had gone from Emerald. I'd seen Diamond and Pearl. I never owned it. I do now. I actually owned it. I bought it used a little bit after I bought White. So I'd seen, how DS Pokemon games looked, but to see this with all this animation and, all the sprites look so beautiful and lively, and, this was the pinnacle, along with Black and White 2, I guess, of, in my opinion, this was the pinnacle of Pokemon's art style. I think on the 3DS, it was just, it really went downhill from there, in my opinion. I think Pokemon, with a pixelated art style, as far as the traditional RPG games, I'm not talking about spin-offs, I'm not talking about fighting games, I'm not talking about the anime, obviously. As far as the traditional RPGs are concerned, I really do think this is where the artwork, or the art style peaked. You could discuss whether, the 3DS games are better, the Game Boy games are better. But I think on the DS, the art style peaked. That's all I'm saying. The music in this game is fantastic. It's still considered some of the best music in the series. And quite honestly, this is, my genesis of Pokemon. Again, I guess Emerald technically is, but I never finished Emerald, as a kid. This was the first one I finished. This solidified me as a Pokemon fan. And that is why this game is so, so important to me. And now we move on to a game that, is also, not everyone's favorite in its respective franchise. Except this one is a bit of a smaller franchise. Not everybody, knows it. It's not a Pokemon, but it's beloved by many, and I think that out of all franchises, this one is, even if you don't play it, I think you can respect it. And that's Pikmin, and specifically Pikmin 2, and even more specifically Pikmin 2 for the Wii, and specifically the new play control version of Pikmin 2. This game released way too freaking late. This released, in 2012, and I remember, again, I had seen people play this game, and I had heard that it was a good game, and I remember I was walking around Best Buy, again, usually with my dad. I was with my dad, and I saw this on the shelf, in the game section, which I would always look through whenever we went to Best Buy. Saw this for $20. I was like, come on, Dad, I'll pay for it another way, come on, please. And he agreed. I brought this game home and popped it in my Wii, on my giant, probably 37-inch CRT that we had in the basement. And this, I did not stop playing this game for probably 3 days straight. I remember coming home from school, after school, and wanting to play it. I would come right back down into the basement, sit on the floor right in front of the CRT, and start playing this thing. And I say CRT like I didn't have another TV. We had other TVs in the house. We had a flat screen in the house. This was 2012, but the gaming TV was the old one. It was the one that was removed from the living room. I wasn't allowed to have the Wii upstairs. Unless, my parents wanted to play Wii Sports or something, and maybe we would bring it up for that, or, for some other special occasion. But I played the majority of my Wii library as a kid, and Wii U, believe it or not, on a CRT. 2012, of course, the Wii U came out. I got mine in 2013. The same thing. But yeah, playing this on a CRT, back in 2012, sitting on the floor in my basement, this game brings back so many good memories, and I absolutely fell in love with this series. And obviously, this is the better way to play Pikmin 2. I own it on GameCube. I played a bit of it. I never finished it on GameCube. But, this was the definitive way to play, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize that this was a GameCube game. I never read this here at the bottom. I just saw, it's Pikmin 2, okay. I've seen Pikmin. I've played Pikmin at my friend's house, but I always wanted to play one for myself. I got this, and I really did fall in love with the series. And I remember, I never played Pikmin 1, through all the way for a long, long time. That game always eluded me. This was always the pinnacle of Pikmin. And I got Pikmin 3 and I love that. Pikmin 4 obviously is fantastic, and I've played Pikmin 1 since then, of course. But this game always, I can tell you all the different, different areas, different dungeons. I have a different story about all of it. And, in this game, I never fully, completed it because it's such a long game, and it is a hard game. This game beats you up, and as a kid, this was a tough one. I have to admit, I was 10. I get this game, or 9 to 10, and I get this game, and man, this thing kicked my ass, but I loved every second of it. And, as much as I would reset and, be upset I lost 40 Pikmin to one enemy, I can't help but love this game even more because of it. And this, to me, is the pinnacle of the Pikmin series. I personally love this game. I think Pikmin 3 is fantastic. I think Pikmin 4 is even better. Pikmin 1 is special. It was obviously the origin of the series, but this absolutely, in my opinion, it's just the most fun game. And it's definitely the most difficult game. Pikmin 3 was not that tough. Pikmin 4, it's definitely a little harder, but I just feel like this, I don't know, playing as Captain Olimar, but then you also, you have Louis. I feel like there's some of the most unique enemy types in this game. All those, crazy bosses. I mean, they have a freaking spider with a steampunk spider with a machine gun in this game. You're not getting that in other freaking Pikmin games. They really just, and the battle mode in this game was pretty fun too. The co-op was pretty fun. This game was great. It truly was. And, this is what got me into the Pikmin series. And I can't help but love it every time that I pop it in. Of course, this is the definitive way to play. The Wiimote and the Nunchuck are just the best way to play Pikmin. So, of course, I was introduced with the best control scheme. In my opinion, the better of the two first games. And, the rest is history. And that's my Pikmin 2 story, pretty much. And the next game, well, we've all talked about it already. But I'm going to briefly go over it again because it is probably the most important game to me. And that is Luigi's Mansion. And the reason that I have the PAL version of the game is, well, that's the story. And I'll be completely honest. My love of this game started, I owned the game, and then it was given away. And I had kind of forgotten. I was very young. I barely remembered it. And then I saw Chugga Conroy's Let's Play. Again, as a kid, I remember when it came out. And I just knew I fell in love with the game. Of course, I loved, watching his series and everything. But I fell in love with this game. I remember watching this, and I went back with the Sunshine review, and that's where those two games really had the biggest impact on me. And, the best thing about it was that when the series for Luigi's Mansion, when his Luigi's Mansion series was coming out, the Pikmin 2 series was coming out. So, honestly, I was just getting that was, just the best era of, I remember Chugga Conroy Let's Plays of that time. He absolutely has influenced so much. He is really what made me, want to do this in the first place. He was one of the first, YouTubers, if you could say that, back in, 2010 or 11, that I watched. And it had such a huge influence on me. And this game stuck with me the hardest. And I wanted it back. I remembered it. I remembered seeing, and I was like, oh, I remember that game. And now I have a Wii. I know I can play GameCube games. Okay, I want to get this game. How do I get it? Go on eBay, of course. That's the number one place to look up games. And, I found a copy of Luigi's Mansion. It was the cheapest one I could find. It had everything. The manual, the disc. The disc looked clean, from my untrained eye. And I was like, okay. So I found my dad. He's all usually involved, my dad. Or it might have even been my mom. I don't really remember. One of my parents, I convinced them to get it, through one way or another. Maybe I gave whatever money I had, and then I said I would, do a chore, for the week or 2 weeks, whatever, whatever it took. And they ordered the game. And the game took a long time to get here. And I thought that was a little weird. I didn't think too much of it. And the game arrived, and it had a British Post stamps all over it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. This game came all the way from England. You know, I wasn't paying attention on the eBay listing of where the game came from. And then, you know, I threw this bad boy in the old Wii, and it wouldn't read. And that's because I bought the damn PAL version of the game. And I was freaking devastated. I wanted this game so badly. I waited every day for it to come. You know, I would check the mail when I got home from school. I would ask my mom. You know, I would ask my dad, did you see it? Did you pick it up? Where is it? Come on. I get it. I pop her open. You know, bam. Didn't matter. Because I couldn't play it. And I was so devastated. And I didn't know how to send things back. I didn't even know where, you know, I probably threw the package out. I didn't know how to do any of that. So I waited a little while. I made a little bit more money. And then I was able to buy the game again. And I made sure it was the North American version this time. I didn't even know that there were region locks on games. But after that, I certainly did learn the hard way. And, you know, I was able to play the game. But the story doesn't stop there, because I get the game the day that I'm supposed to go visit my aunt and uncle up in Massachusetts. And I'm like, God damn, I'm still not going to be able to play this game for, you know, a whole nother, 4 days. It was a long weekend. And then, my dad said, well, let's bring the Wii. I don't want you playing this all the time, but you can bring the Wii. We'll see if they have a TV you can set it up in. I was like, oh, Dad, thank you so much. So we brought it up. Obviously not the PAL version, but I brought up my new copy of the game, set up my Wii on this little CRT, in their family room. And I remember sitting on the floor playing this game for hours. I'd wake up 6 a.m, come down, play the game before anybody was awake, just so I had time to play it, because I knew that, I was going to have a busy day. We would be out doing whatever. But I made time to play this game. And I remember that so vividly. That weekend, and the best part about it was I didn't have a memory card. So I would start the game, and then I would have to turn off the Wii, or I would just leave it running sometimes, and it would get shut off or fall asleep or whatever. And I would lose my progress. I would have to go back, and it was a whole thing. And I remember I would have to replay the beginning of the game a lot. But I just fell in love with the game even more. And despite all of the missteps, I now own 3 damn copies of this game. This is my favorite game of all time. And I'm happy to own 3 copies of it. I'll own freaking 10 copies of it, goddammit. Because to me, this is just my favorite game. It is not the best game of all time, but damn is it a good and charming game. And it won me over, tenfold. And, that is my Luigi's Mansion story. And the final game that I'm going to be talking about today is not just the game. And I'm actually going to zoom this bad boy out just a bit. Oops. Just a bit, because I'm not just talking about a game. But first we'll bring that game out. And it's a Christmas story. There had to be a Christmas story in this. None of my other things were. But this is a Christmas story. And not that one. Not like the movie. But it was when I got my Wii. And I had seen the Wii, my friend, I remember when I was very little, this must have been 2006, when the Wii came out. I had a friend, who had it. I was, 4? And I went over to their house for a sleepover, and I saw they had this. They were playing bowling and baseball and tennis on their TV, and they were using, the controller to swing the tennis racket, and that just blew me away. And, I would play the Wii at my friend's house, but I never really thought that I would get one of my own. I would play games on our computer, but I never really thought that I would have a game console of my own, a Wii. That to me as a kid was, such a huge deal. But then I, something changed. And this game, along with Wii Sports, entered my life. And it's a little sad that this game that, entered my life is New Super Mario Bros. Wii. But Along with this, of course, this is in the little pamphlet here, not in the traditional box, which can only mean that along with the game, I got myself a red Wii. I got the 25th anniversary Mario Wii, the red one, the one that everybody, now really looks for. And this bad boy, she's been used and abused, but this was my Wii growing up. I had the red Wii, and I never thought anything of it. But to me, this was I was blown away. And of course, Wii Sports, like that, I had seen that game played so much. I had played it, I loved it, and I always did. I would always bring the Wii up with Wii Sports to family events, and we would always have a lot of fun playing. I would show it to everybody I could. And, every family member could have a little bit of fun with Wii Sports. My grandfather, I remember playing it with him sometimes. But New Super Mario Bros. Wii. This was not technically my first Mario game, but it was the first one that I owned. Believe it or not. And, this is not the greatest Mario platformer. You go back to this game, and it's a little rough. But this was the first one that I owned, and it was multiplayer. And being able to play this with my cousins, we had Christmas brunch every year. We still do to this day, my family. And, being able to play this game, we set it up on the CRT down in the basement and had a blast playing multiplayer. Going through the levels, finding the star coins, doing all that for the first time. And doing it with my family, with my cousins, I cannot, think of a better way to spend Christmas morning than, with my cousins, playing freaking Mario on the CRT, on my brand new Wii in the basement. And, that would happen, for years beyond that. My cousin, my aunt and uncle lived directly behind us growing up, and, my cousin would just walk over, through the yards, and we'd play this game. If someone was babysitting us over at my house, that this was the damn game. This game got a lot of mileage from me, and I've obviously finished it a long time ago, and I only ever finished it once. I would always go back and play levels, and all that, and I have plenty of fond memories with this game. Is it the best Mario game? God, no. But it's the first one that I owned, and it holds a very special place in my heart, as something that me and my family, really enjoyed when I was growing up. And that all started that Christmas. I believe it was, I don't remember, because I don't remember if this guy actually launched in 2009 for the 2010 year, being the 25th anniversary, or if it might have been 2010. I don't even really know. But either way, this game and this console, these guys together, this was truly the start of my personal console journey. Like I said, I owned a GameCube. It was a hand-me-down as a little kid, and I barely knew, what I was doing. I don't even think I really used it that much. And my parents, I think, noticed, and that's why it disappeared from my life. But this brought everything back. This brought, gaming into my life more than playing Flash games on the computer or watching my dad play, Half-Life and the Valve titles. And it's one of the most important games. This really introduced the Mario series to me, other than the few, instances that I had seen it played before. And this was a brand new game. So goddamn, this was huge for me. And that's it. Those are my little personal stories, ending with a little Christmas tale. One of, the most important Christmases in terms of my gaming influence. And with that comes to a close the final carpet video. And again, this is not the last one. I promise I will keep doing these in the new year, but for a little while we're going to take a break, of course. I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching, so much for all the support. It has been incredible to see, and If you're watching these in order, I will still see you tomorrow. And if not, I don't know when the next video will be, but I will see you guys then.